Hiya Mark, great session, great way to start the year. Down at the range on Tuesday. Quick recap on the key points that we covered. We got two main issues. One was the ongoing saga and the ongoing battle with the angle of the shaft and the way the body rotates from P4 to P5. This is you midway through the season, probably July time last year. And to be fair, we've got footage of you doing this worse, albeit this is not exactly how I would want. So you can see there the shaft coming through the shoulder as we change direction, consequently getting a little bit too much out in front of us at P6, and always feeling like we're cutting across the golf ball. Body spinning out the way, shoulders quite open through impact. So we wanted to look at improving that move from the top. And then the other issue that we talked about and discussed online prior to the lesson was this left knee and the effect it has on your hips and your shoulders. You can see here, this was your previous visit back end of 2012. We were making progress here in regards to the delivery of the golf club, but this move on the way back wasn't making it too easy. The left knee was going forward towards the target and also towards the baseline. That was causing the hips to drift forward a little bit rather than being stable. And again, we've got footage of you. This tended to be a little bit more emphasised with your longer clubs. So hips and left knee not working properly. Shoulders were becoming quite flat at P2 when viewed from down the line. There's a slight loss of height as well as we go back. And then really it's an ongoing battle, because at the top we don't really create enough shoulder turn and we don't have enough extension. What we've got here is a situation where the forward bend has been maintained, but we appear centred because the hip centre has drifted forward, so the hip girdle has moved towards the target, as has the left knee, and that in turn gives the impression that the axis of the shoulder turn has stayed in the centre of the stance. So a little bit of a false position there in some respects. So the first protocol we discussed was the left knee. We wanted to free up the left knee. So we dealt with this first because it was going to make the first issue much easier to improve once we got going. So with the left knee moving in towards the target line and in towards the golf ball, so in and forward, we can see now that the hip girdle is much more stable from P1 to P3. It does drift forward a little bit from P3 onwards as you go looking for a comfortable position, but only a fraction. The pitch of the shoulders when viewed from down the line was much steeper because we have much more pelvic side bend as we get to this stage of the swing than we had previously when the hips are very level. Now as we approach the top of the swing, we've got a limited amount of extension. Power accumulator 4 hasn't really travelled a great deal. Whereas on this swing with a freer left knee, more side bend in the pelvis, we've now got a much bigger shoulder turn. Accumulator 4, the left arm has travelled much further, as has the shaft, and that's going to make it much easier for you to get this club working from the inside in the downswing. I'm just going to get rid of these lines for you on that swing and that swing. Take this one right to the top. Just going to zoom in on this one. How much more visible the right shoulder is here. I mean, your shoulder turn on this one is substantially more than we've seen before. Now, length isn't an issue, but we don't mind having more of it. Accumulator 4 travelling further will create more speed, which in turn will give us more height, and the improved ability to turn the shoulders and extend will make it much easier for you to get the club delivered from the inside at P6. Remember on the drills that we talked about on the DVD, maximum turn on the way through, minimum turn on the way, maximum turn on the way back, minimal turn on the way through. will give us a swing line shifted to the right, and that's what we're trying to do. So by improving the ability to turn, tilt and extend in the backswing, as well as increasing speed, power and stabilising the axis, we're also going to make it much easier to deliver the club from the inside. Having said that, what we then needed to do was work on a way of understanding why this shaft is steepening and how to police that. So the feel that we gave you was that instead of accumulator 3 releasing or unloading early during the downswing, pulling everything forward and shifting the plane to the left, the feel that we gave you was to load accumulator 3, which is the back of the left hand, more from P4 to P5. Now obviously that's an extreme version, but that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get it in there so that we do a line across the back of the left hand. At that point you can see now we've loaded accumulator 3 more, as opposed to releasing accumulator 3 more. Whatever the back of the left hand does is going to be reflected in the shaft. So we can see now the shaft much shallower through the middle of the bicep, stroke base of the bicep, as opposed to steep and through the shoulder. Now this is fine if all we want to do is hit cuts, but if we want to hit a higher draw, then we need to establish this position. And then towards the end of the session, with accumulator 3 loading more, it's actually maintaining its position on this one. We can see now as we stop at that same move there, the shaft is shallower, it's not as much through the shoulder. As we go down a little bit further, you can see a completely different position as we're approaching impact. Shaft now moving into the forearm as opposed to staying above the forearm. The arm is angled inwards a fraction more than what we see here. So definitely on the inside now, you can see they're in behind the hands as opposed to tumbling down in front of the hands. And again, that's not necessarily the end of the world, but for us it is, because we want to hit a draw. Right heel doesn't pop up as much, just a tad lower to the ground, suggesting that there's more linear movement. We can see already that the body, as a result of what you're doing with that accumulator 3 from the top, hasn't spun out of the way quite as much through impact. There's not a tendency to flex forward quite as much with the upper spine as you're coming into the golf ball as before. So all these things really are just happening because of the attention we've put on this move from the top, this feeling that accumulator 3 is going to load from P4 to P5 as opposed to release from P4 to P5. Now ideally it shouldn't do anything from P4 to P5, but we've got to try and feel it's loading short term. Worst case scenario, if it loads too much, you come your next lesson, you're stuck underneath it, you're hitting big hard draws, and to be quite honest with you, it's not a bad problem to have. So from here now, what we also see is in the downswing, we see a little bit more of an appearance of some linear movement. Even though the hips aren't necessarily any further forward than they were in the past, there's a sort of different look to it. It's almost like the hips can slide now because they haven't drifted forward during the backswing. Whereas on this one, with the hips so far forward at the top, all we can do from the top really is turn. There's nothing there to slide because the hip girdle's already moved forward. Shaft position at impact was improving on your last session anyway, so good work in regards to that. It's a much better position than we used to get it in anyway. Some slight changes there again. P6, we know what to do in that last session, tightening up P6, but overall the two key moves we wanted, which was to improve the top of the backswing position, P4, and to improve the angle of approach, if you will, P6, has been done during this session. So the key thoughts: free up the left knee, load accumulator 3 from P4 to P5. Good luck with it. I look forward to working with you again in the coming weeks. Well done.